up top. Gallagher gets it to Alvarez. He's been quiet and he scores. Just a second hoop of the night. Franco Alvarez gives GCC the lead. And welcome back to another edition of the Westmoreland Hardwood Podcast. Each and every week right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network's YouTube channel. I'm Sean Meyers, joined by Jack Ridenour. Very excited, very happy, smiling from ear to ear is Jack, and that's because he knows we've got a big show here today. We got a lot to discuss. Of course, we're going to have our plays of the week. This will be 5 different plays. It is action-packed in terms of plays of the week. Our team of the week, well-deserved, the Greensburg Central Catholic Centurions boys, coming off of just a massive week and really just a terrific run over the past several weeks. We'll have our trivia question and a look ahead at a very intense week of high school basketball, both on the boys and girls side in Westmoreland County. But our starting 5, Jack, our biggest takeaways from this past week, you had the call. Norwin girls sweep the season series against North Allegheny. So they pretty clearly look like the number 1 seed and the top contender in 6A. I know Peters Township is certainly there, and you can't count out NA just because they lost both. But for Norwin, you couldn't really ask for a better performance, and now they know they control their own destiny in terms of winning the section.
Without a doubt. And again, just another dominating performance across the board from Norwin. And you give a lot of credit to North Allegheny. This is a team that hung there the whole way through. There was actually a point in the first half. It was tied at 12, and Norwin had jumped out to a quick lead. North Allegheny was able to put together a nice little run. And then it was a 7-0, 8-0 run by Norwin. And really, the Knights just didn't look back after that. But something to make note of that I noticed between the first game, the time that these two teams played, and the most recent time. The first time at North Allegheny, it was a 47-42 final. 19-4, Norwin outscored North Allegheny in the second quarter. The most recent time, 22-9 was the scoring in the fourth quarter, Norwin outscoring NA. It was a 7-point game, and our colleague and friend Mark Katarski made a good point during the game. Fourth quarter was really close when it first started, and then Norwin just turned it up a notch. And again, they just showed why they are legitimately the team to beat in 6A right now, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And again, it's massive, but we know that these teams very likely could meet again. So there's a real possibility that the Knights may have to beat North Allegheny 3 or maybe even 4 times to get to ultimately where they want to go. Remember, a year ago, they played 4 times. They split 2 games apiece. Anyone in particular stand out in that performance for Norwin?
Kendall Berger, is a name that really, and we've mentioned her all year long, but she really had a nice game, 21 points, got it done from the free throw line, and that was something that North Allegheny struggled with most of the way, fouling jump shooters. And Mark and I were talking about it during the broadcast, just a little bit too aggressive on some of the closeouts, and Kendall Berger, at some point or another, she was into double figures without barely shooting any field goals. She was just getting to the free throw line. She was really impressive. And then Ava Christopher had a nice 10-point performance. She was really, really good, especially with getting Norwin out to a quick 4-0 run to begin the game.
You know who else was really good? Kiski area boys, as they blew out Greater Latrobe. And I love this section in 5A because, one, it's Westmoreland County heavy section with 4 of the 6 teams in Westmoreland County. But 2, with the exception of McKeesport, which is not a bad team, but certainly a down year for the Tigers, the other 5 teams, they're just beating up on each other. And it was Kiski's night to kind of lower the boom, if you will, on a Greater Latrobe team that had been streaking. Isaiah Gonzalez was really good, as he's often been for the Cavaliers. That's a major win. And again, it's like, what did we learn last week? Well, forget about it because that means nothing this upcoming week. And it feels like that each and every week in Section 3 and 5A.
Well, Sean, I'm glad that it's your favorite section in 5A because it's also my favorite section in 5A. I have it written in my notes, the most intriguing section, and you make a great point, beating up on each other, right? You have Franklin Regional that beats Latrobe, but then Latrobe beats Gateway, and Gateway beats Franklin Regional, and you could kind of play out the rest of the scenario there. The top 4 teams right there are such a jumbled mess. You have Franklin Regional, Gateway tied for first, Kiski area and Latrobe right there behind them at 3-3 each. This was a big win for Kiski area because I remember you and I earlier in the basketball season, we were talking about Kiski area They came out to a really strong start in non-section play, and then they faltered a little bit to start section play. They've been playing really well. They've won 4 games in a row now, and they still have to play against Franklin Regional, Gateway, McKeesport, and Penn Trafford again. They do have Gateway and Penn Trafford at home, so those are 2 games that they should hopefully take if they can take care of business at home. But again, just being able to beat Latrobe, who we've been very high on over the last few weeks, beating them in the way they did, scoring 20 or more points in 3 of the 4 quarters. I mean, just a complete offensive domination by Kiski area.
And it's big for the Cavaliers because they redeemed that loss that they had against Greater Latrobe earlier this season. That was a 10-point Wildcats win. This one in favor of Kiski area, 79-47. I wasn't surprised that Kiski won. I was surprised at how lopsided it was in favor of the Cavaliers. Well, not quite as lopsided, but notable nonetheless. In another Westmoreland County all battle, Bell Vernon area boys knock off Southmoreland. You talk about the Cavaliers got off to such a great start. So did the Scotties, but they found section play a little bit tougher sledding. And Bell Vernon seemingly starting to round into form. But we know it's so tough for them because they had so many key components that extended football season into mid-December, but now it seems like they're really starting to find their groove on hardwood.
Without a doubt, and a big reason why. I mean, like you mentioned, the players coming back from football into basketball. Alonzo Wade, a triple-double, 10 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists. I mean, getting a triple-double at any level is hard, but doing it in high school basketball, you have 32 minutes to do it, basically. I mean, that's nearly impossible, but Wade's able to do it. And then the other thing that makes, I think, Bell Vernon so dangerous is that Zion Moore fouled out with 24 points, still had help from Trevor Kovac, who had 18 points, and like mentioned, Alonzo Wade with 10 points. And you also throw in Tommy Davis having 27 points, a career high for him with 12 rebounds. That widespread offense, and that's hard to beat. And scoring 85 points, and I know that they score a lot of points in general, around 69, 67, somewhere in that general area. They could really be a team that catches fire at the right time. And I think it's a big win and a much needed win against Southmoreland. Gives them a little bit of separation from them and the Scotties in the standings. But everyone's chasing Uniontown right now, right? I mean, the only undefeated team in the section. And so I think everybody, Bell Vernon included, they're still kind of looking up and wondering, how can we beat Uniontown?
Well, the Leopards are going to get their chance soon. But you mentioned Davis exploding. It often feels like when Bell Vernon wins, it's because Zion Moore is going nuts, putting up, 30 plus points per game. But when you can have someone else lead your team in scoring, that really speaks to the depth that they have. Even though they don't particularly go all that deep into the rotation, they have 4, 5, 6 guys who can certainly step up on any given night and provide a lot of offense. On the other side, it had to be kind of weird. It's not the first time he's dealt with it, but Frank Musino, the head coach for the Southmoreland team, remember, he is a valuable football assistant coach at Bell Vernon area, so he knows guys like Zoe Wade who play football. Always interesting. The Scotties, I think, are going to be okay, but they do kind of have to right the ship sooner rather than later, knowing, that it's now on the second half of this section slate.
As they say, it's now or never, right? And I think that's we're getting to that point for Southmoreland where if you're and in all honesty, if you look at the section right now, they have the second most overall wins behind Uniontown. They have 14 wins overall this season, so they've had a good year without a doubt.
They had such a great start to the season.
And as they always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And right now, I think Bell Vernon, they seem to be going like that. And Southmoreland, they might be at a crossroads right now. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go up or are they going to go down? And again, the fact that Bell Vernon's getting help from other guys outside of Moore, that just makes them an even bigger matchup problem. And now opposing defenses, they have to game plan for not just one player, but 3 or 4.
Well, you mentioned it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Unfortunately for the Derry area Trojans boys, they just couldn't quite get it across the finish line. It would have been a massive upset against Deer Lakes, the defending state runner-up Lancers. Ultimately, the Trojans just could not hit the win. They had a chance to win it at the buzzer. Nate Papuga off on a 3. So they fell. But for them, I think in one sense, you say we just played with maybe the best team in the WPIAL and had a chance to win the game at Deer Lakes. On the other side, and I believe Coach Esposito is kind of quoted as saying afterwards, we're right there, but we still can't get over the hump. It has to be, to some extent, frustrating as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you it's almost like you're running into a wall and you can't get through that wall. And Coach Espo made a great point. They're kind of on that hump and they can't quite get over it. And you start wondering, what is it? Is it the offense? Is it the defense? And Nate Papuga had a really nice game at 21 points. And so obviously the offense and the offensive players that you need to have, they're stepping up. I think that this could be, like you said, a game where you say we hung with one of the top teams in really the state, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Or, you say this is a game where, we wound up losing it at the end after leading for a good portion of the ball game. But I think that there's more positives to take away than negatives. Again, I mean, when you have an 8-0 section team in Deer Lakes, on the ropes like that, I think Derry needs to build on this, and they need to look at this, they say bad wins or good losses, right? And I think that this is a good loss for them, because they will learn from this and they will say, okay, this is what we have to do to play in close games against top tier competition. We've gotten a taste of it. Let's build on it when we get into section play or when we get into playoffs, because right now in the section, I mean, I would say, and again, there's a lot of things that can happen, but they're kind of cruising to that top 4 finish right now. Good separation with them in Valley. So they can at least have a little bit of peace in mind knowing that, hey, we'll probably be in the playoffs, but we still have a long way to go.
And you saw that they blew out Valley earlier this season. But just comparing the 2 games against Deer Lakes, because they played the Lancers earlier this season as well. The first game was at Derry, and that was a 10-point Deer Lakes win. So then you go on the road and you think it might get even worse, and they lose by 2 points. And again, they had the ball late. So signs of improvement there. And then they did bounce back with a couple of key wins. Not easy against Burrell, but they beat the Buccaneers 51-50. And then they scored a victory against Mount Pleasant and another Westmoreland County matchup at the Seton Hill Shootout. I know you had a chance to see him early in the season. They also have an impressive freshman who seems like he'll get better and better as the season goes along.
Yeah, Stanley Rajkovic has been really, really good this year. And I love, he's got great size. I was reading an article. They talked a lot about his presence inside, but quite frankly, I think that he's got some great presence on the perimeter. I mean, he's got a really nice jump shot, great follow through. So I think that it's not maybe this year that Derry puts it all together, but in a couple years, I think that this is a team where, they're right behind, if not, level playing field with Deer Lakes.
Lastly, for our starting 5, our big takeaways, another 1,000-point score in Westmoreland County, although I have to apologize. I missed one the prior show, so really we'll recognize 2,000-point scores. Kiski area's Abby Johns got to 1K recently. That came on Friday. And I missed it a week ago. Ellie Snyder of Greater Latrobe also got to the 1,000-point mark in her career. I know that the Cavaliers are kind of having a rough season. They're just 2-6. In section play, but you talked to both of these young ladies on your Recruiting Thursday articles, Jack. 2 really intelligent, articulate, and obviously very bright future for both of them as well. So congrats in a big way to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, both of them playing really good basketball this season. And like you mentioned, I mean, both playing high-level basketball moving forward. I know Abby Johns going to Shippensburg, Ellie Snyder playing at the Division I level next year at Evansville. So big congratulations to them. And Sean, this might upset some Westmoreland County sports fans. Everyone thinks of football. Everyone thinks of wrestling in the county. Could we maybe say that basketball is kind of creeping in there in the Westmoreland County area?
Yeah, we've had a lot of players, boys and girls, get to 1,000 points already this season, and there's many, many more to come, certainly over the next handful of weeks. That'll do it for our starting 5, our biggest takeaways. Let's now shift quickly to plays of the week, and we got a lot to get to, so let's waste no time. We'll begin with the Franklin Regional boys, and Cooper Rankin was an offensive catalyst in the Panthers' latest overtime thriller. He took the game over in OT against Penn Trafford last Friday, scoring off the glass to extend to a 2-possession lead, with myself and Mark Katarski providing the commentary.
You got Rankin and Rao here both at the block. Watch for maybe a little rise up, back screen slip. They get it to Rankin. They was trying on a back door. They were trying to get him on a back door and also leaving this drive. He's hard to guard off the dribble. High off of glass for Rankin. He's got 20. He's got 4 of the 5 in overtime. It is now a 5-point lead.
Cooper Rankin, really, really good player. Maybe kind of the Robin on many nights to Cam Rao, but he was the Batman in this one, and he's been great, and the Panthers continue to find ways to win dramatic contests. On the other side, though, we'll look at the Penn Trafford boys, the team that they defeated. And although the Warriors ultimately lost in overtime. They used a big defensive stand to force the extra period against FR. It was Zach Feldman and Ian Temple who stuffed the aforementioned Cooper Rankin in the final seconds, with myself and Mark on the headset.
And there you go. Rankin has the ball. I would not give it back. Let's keep going downhill.
Spinning, and there's your swatted. Good defense. Feldman's heave. It would count. It is off the mark. And guess what? For the second Friday in a row, we will head to overtime in Murraysville.
Good stuff there from PT converging to make sure that extra time was required and that Rankin couldn't at least be the hero at the end of regulation. We'll continue plays of the week with Norwin girls, and their massive win against North Allegheny featured plenty of the night's trademark defense, including a steal by Kendall Berger that led to a nice transition finish from Ava Christopher that put the game away in the fourth, with Jack and Mark on the call.
They've been able to play through it. Good hands by Berger as she strips Helliger. Christopher drives, shoots, bucket in the foul. Big time shot by the sophomore as the foul comes against McConnell, her third, team's third. And Christopher swells the lead to 17.
Thought it was a pass right there, but she kept the dribble, went through. Watch Coach possess it.
Another big-time defensive stop by Norwin, and it seems that every single week we've got one or two plays from them because they continue to show why they're one of the top teams in the WPIAL.
Absolutely. Although, in that same game, we have a play of the week from North Allegheny. Yeah, they're not in Westmoreland County, but this one deserves recognition because the Tigers had a highlight of their own in the loss against Norwin as Kate Ping Pang hit a miraculous heave to beat the buzzer at the end of the first quarter, with Jack and Mark detailing the action.
Connell suffocated by Snowberger. 3 seconds to go. Blocked by Pelangio. One, and it goes in! It counts! Ping Pang off the bank, making a 5-point difference at the end of the quarter. A prayer is thrown up and it's answered. What a way to cap off an exciting 8 minutes of basketball.
What a shot there as we go outside of the county lines to recognize that one. Lastly, the Greensburg Central Catholic boys, and it was quiet for most of the night last Monday against Sarah Catholic for Franco Alvarez, but he came up big in the final seconds, hitting the game winner on the Centurion's home floor, with myself and Greg Bizignani captioning the play.
He's going to work around the screen. Sees a couple of defenders. Pick up top. Gallagher gets it to Alvarez. He's been quiet and he scores. Just his second hoop of the night. Franco Alvarez gives GCC the lead.
Still a lot of time left on the clock for Sarah. And they're going to take a timeout to talk about how they want to handle this last 15 seconds.
Franco Alvarez had just 2 points through the first 3 quarters and about 7.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, but he changes it in a big way.
A great game and a great win for Greensburg Central Catholic. And Jack, a perfect transition because our team of the week, the Greensburg Central Catholic boys, they are now 17-2, a perfect 9-0 in Class 2A Section 3. They're riding an 8-game winning streak. This past week, they had that thriller against Sarah Catholic, 61-59. They blew out Leechburg. And then I think one of their best wins of the entire season, it came out of section, but it came against a 5A heavyweight in the Gateway Gators, 63-42 at Seton Hill University. Christian Highland's crew is riding high right now, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that win against Gateway. That's a statement win, in my opinion. I mean, that's a win where you're sending shockwaves to everybody saying, hey, we're not just playing for a WPIAL championship. We're playing for a state championship. I mean, and this is a Gateway team that we just spent, the last, 10 minutes ago talking about how good they've been in 5A. And so, I mean, Greensburg Central Catholic is a team that, quite frankly, right now, I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule and the remaining schedule, you have Jeanette, Clareton, and Springdale, all teams that they have beaten by double digits. They could theoretically, and again, things can change, but they could theoretically finish section play undefeated. I mean, they have just marched through everybody. And I think when you've got that kind of 1-2 combo of Tyree Turner and Franco Alvarez, that's a lot. And then you surround them with really good shooting that they've had throughout the year. I mean, this is a team, and not to mention a young coach in Christian Highland that has clearly, I mean, I think has really just caught everybody's attention, especially with this win. I think other teams in the classification should be somewhat concerned when they run into the Centurions.
Yeah, some eyebrows certainly raised that victory against the Gators. But again, they've been doing it all of 2024. They have not lost since the calendar turned. And you look at the losses that they have, a 3-point loss against Penn Hills, which, by the way, is a 5A team, much like Gateway. The Indians, the defending WPIAL champions. And so their other loss was against Franklin Regional, and we know that the Panthers are absolutely rolling this season. So they've had some really good wins, obviously in section, out of section, and they are peaking, it feels like, at the right time. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention their big two, Tyree Turner and Franco Alvarez, but I think it's some of the other guys who have really been instrumental in their victories this season.
And when you've got that kind of extra help that can, again, if a guy is, slowing down Tyree for a night, you have some extra help there so that there isn't that kind of, where are we going to get our other offense from? I mean, I go back to
that's what happened against Sarah Catholic. Franco Alvarez had 4 points, although the 2 biggest points, he finished with just 4 points in that win.
Well, and I go back to even the Jeanette game, and I mean, there was a couple threes hit on the perimeter. They're able to do a lot of things that, and the other thing I think about Greensburg Central Catholic is that they can score 20 points in a row in a moment's notice. I mean, they can catch fire really quick. And when a team can do that at any second and go on a 10-2 run, a 14-2 run in 3 minutes, I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle the rest of the game. So this is a team that is very dangerous. You've got other guys like Liam Gallagher, obviously Brady O'Rourke, that can fill it up from deep, that can help out Tyree Turner some, can help Franco Alvarez some. It's a well-balanced team, and it's a well-structured team that I think that, when you have these types of teams, it's really only themselves that wind up beating themselves.
And remember, Christian Highland, the head coach, and Tyree Turner, now a senior, both were part of a championship appearance when Turner was just a freshman. They played against what was the juggernaut Our Lady of the Sacred Heart team. They're trying to get back to that stage and unbelievably win the first WPIAL title in GCC boys basketball history. Well, that's an interesting trivia question, but we have another one we want to get to. First off, let's look at last week's trivia question. And it was as of when we filmed the show, which was last Sunday night or Monday morning, however you want to look at it. I mean, we technically filmed it Sunday and it aired Monday morning. But before action last Monday, which Westmoreland County girls team had the best scoring defense? You kind of gave it away during the show if anyone paid attention. The Burl Buccaneers allowing 29.5 points per game. They have been outstanding. That is the correct answer, which leads us to this week's trivia question, and we stay on the girls' side. Which was the first girls basketball team in Westmoreland County to capture a WPIAL title? We'll give the answer next week, but if you want to chime in, reach out to us on some form of social media. You can tweet at us. You can comment on this video. You can send an email. There's many ways.
Give me a phone call. I'll answer if you give me a phone call.
Give Jack a phone call. Absolutely. Call him at 4 a.m. He prefers that. So if you want to chime in, which girls basketball team in Westmoreland County was the first to win a WPIAL title? And bonus points if you get the year correct as well. Well, we'll wrap up the show with a look ahead. And I said it before, Jack, it's starting to get to crunch time now. We're down to the last 3-4 section games for a lot of these teams. And there's some good ones upcoming this week. We'll have many of which on WSN as well. We'll start on the boys' side Tuesday, Mount Lebanon at Hempfield area. We'll have that broadcast in 6A. Kiski area at Franklin Regional is a big one. Southmoreland at Elizabeth Forward. Uniontown at Bell Vernon area. Deer Lakes at Burl. Washington at York. That could decide section supremacy. And always good rivalry matchup. We'll have coverage of it. Jeanette at Greensburg Central Catholic. Thursday, Gateway at Kiski area. Friday, Franklin Regional at Greater Latrobe. Valley at Derry area. York at Mount Pleasant. And Clairton at Jeanette. And then Jeanette, the next day on Saturday, will be at Sarah Catholic. On the girls' side, Seneca Valley at Hempfield area on Monday. We'll have coverage of that on WSM. Kiski area at Franklin Regional. North Catholic at Greensburg Salem. Southmoreland at Bell Vernon. Shadyside Academy at Burl. Sarah Catholic at Greensburg Central Catholic. Ligonier at Jeanette on Wednesday. And Thursday, Hempfield at Norwin. Penn Trafford at Oakland Catholic, and Burrow at Ligonier Valley. And we're also going to have some college action this week. Jack, I know you're excited to do Seton Hill as the Griffins host Pitt Johnstown for a doubleheader Monday Once again, both those games, the women's and men's, will be on WSN.
A lot of really good basketball this week. I mean, I think Tuesday, the boys' slate of games, like you mentioned, there's a lot that could decide a lot in a lot of different sections.
And I forgot one, by the way, on Friday, Jack. I do not want to forget this. McKeesport at Penn Trafford boys that we will also have coverage of from that same Class 5A Section 3 that we love so much.
And I mean, you look at, Kiski area and Franklin Regional. I mean, I think that's going to be an interesting one on Tuesday because let's face it, Kiski area, they're riding hot right now. Franklin Regional's probably feeling pretty good off of recent win over Shaler a few weeks ago. I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like if you're Franklin Regional Gateway, your position at the top of that section is not safe. And a lot of things can change. And then obviously Bell Vernon and Uniontown on Tuesday. I mean, does Uniontown hold on to an undefeated record or does Bell Vernon change that? I mean, I think that Bell Vernon could very well change that. So a lot of really good basketball this week.
Absolutely. And that means we'll have a lot of really good broadcasts on WSN. Well, we've reached our time limit. No timeouts remaining for us. So we're going to beat the buzzer on this one. But again, each and every week, check out our website, westmorelandsports.com. Live game broadcasts that are also archived. We'll have plenty of articles, other content all throughout the week on our social media. And of course, each and every week, you can check out this edition and previous installments of our Westmoreland on the Hardwood podcast on our YouTube channel. But for now, thank you for tuning in. For Jack Ridenour, Sean Meyers. We'll catch you again next week right here on the Westmoreland on the Hardwood podcast.
This is the Westmoreland on the Hardwood podcast on the Westmoreland Sports Network.